Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take your essential sources, the articles, the narratives, the research, and just, pull them apart to find the most important and often surprising nuggets of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we are taking a profound step into the sticky, atmospheric heart of Louisiana.
That sounds about right.
We are diving deep into the world of the Vicknair family. They're this hidden lineage of mediums who are bound by this, ancient, intensely personal, and frankly, sexually frustrating spiritual duty.
That's absolutely right. And our mission for you, the learner, is not just to summarize a story. We need to dissect the actual, almost bureaucratic mechanics of being a Vicknair medium.
Bureaucratic, I like that.
It really is. I mean, this means understanding the precise rules of a spiritual assignment, the debilitating physical costs this duty extracts from the living, and the massive, very real-world financial crisis that threatens to demolish their ancestral home.
Which is their spiritual nexus.
Yeah,
right?
It's their whole operation, all while one very handsome, highly reluctant spirit tests every single rule in their ancient rule book.
And crucially, the key source material really emphasizes that despite where they are, in Louisiana, the Vicknairs operate in absolute secrecy.
Total secret.
They are not selling ghost tours. They keep their talent for communicating with the non-living strictly under wraps. And this secret is policed rigorously by the deceased matriarch, Adeline Vicknair.
She's still in charge.
Oh, she is definitely still in charge. So we're going to unpack the rigorous, even painful rules that govern their interaction with the dead, and then analyze what happens when those rigid rules collide head-on with a determined ghost who doesn't want to leave and a 24-year-old medium, Monique, who has reached her breaking point after, an enforced 6-month dry spell.
A long time. It's a convergence of cosmic responsibility and intense human desire. The bureaucracy of the afterlife meets the desperation of the living.
Yeah.
And it forces us to ask, is this ancient system designed purely for spiritual efficiency? Or is there maybe a more personal, even manipulative agenda at play here?
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the mechanism of their duty. This isn't a casual gift, it's a mandatory hereditary job.
Absolutely. So the current generation has 6 cousins currently performing what they call Vicknair medium duty, and their assignment is highly specific.
Okay.
They're essentially spiritual closure counselors. Their entire purpose is to help the recently deceased, or, lingering spirits, determine their core dilemma, the one thing holding them in the middle, and then guide them to fulfill that specific need so they can finally cross over.
That distinction is so critical. They aren't just saying go to the light.
No, not at all.
They have to identify the spiritual knot and help untangle it. And this process, it starts with a delivery system, which sounds bizarrely formal.
It is. It really is. The sources treat the arrival of an assignment with this, almost religious reverence, but the system itself is pure bureaucracy. Assignments are not divined from the ether. They arrive via a specific ceremonial delivery mechanism,
Which is?
a lavender-tinted envelope. This envelope just materializes without any warning on the antique tea service that's permanently in the plantation's sitting room.
Wow.
The appearance of that envelope signals the immediate start of the assignment.
Okay, so why lavender? Is there anything in the source material that points to that specific color being significant spiritually or historically for the family?
That's a great question. The sources don't give a definitive answer, but lavender is, symbolically associated with spirituality, refinement, purity in a lot of traditions.
Right.
However, the Vicknair context suggests it's more like a brand. It's a marker of authenticity and authority.
Like a registered letter from the other side.
Exactly. It's the spiritual equivalent of a registered letter stamped with the official seal of the afterlife. It screams, this is not optional.
And the enforcement of this,
Mm-hmm.
this spiritual employment, is utterly ruthless. We learn that the matriarch, Adeline Vicknair, even though she's deceased, is still the primary enforcer.
Mm-hmm.
The text says she has a feisty temper and her mandates are non-negotiable. Once that envelope appears, the assignment must be handled, or else.
And the or else is the true spiritual leash, and it's physically devastating. This is what the family calls the burn.
The burn.
The burn is the key signal and the compliance enforcement mechanism. It is a physical sensation designed to override all personal human desire or delay.
Let's dwell on the physics of this for a moment, because this is where the system gets fascinatingly cruel. Monique describes it beginning instantly and aggressively, a stinging sensation starting high on the back of her neck.
Yeah.
She says it's burning hotter than a levee bonfire. I mean, how can a spiritual mandate cause actual physical dermal pain?
Well, the theory that's implied in the sources is all about energy transference and
Yes.
spiritual binding. The Vicknair mediums are their vessels, right?
Yeah.
And Adeline's power, as the deceased gatekeeper of their lineage, allows her to use the spirit realm's energy to focus the medium's compliance. It's essentially a focused, metaphysical short-circuiting of their nervous system.
So the longer she resists.
The more intense the energy transfer becomes.
Exactly. And it doesn't stay on her neck. This is where the physical toll becomes almost unbearable and so intensely personal for Monique. That burn spreads rapidly down her back and chest, causing her nipples to ache, a perverse mix of intense pain and, like, unwanted physical sensation.
Yeah, it's awful.
The overall pain is described as feeling like a hot iron is being pressed repeatedly against her skin. She knows instantly that she cannot delay a moment longer than necessary.
It's highly effective behavioral conditioning. The sources really emphasize this cycle. The pain escalates so quickly that delaying even a short drive home becomes unbearable torture.
So it's an immediate trade-off.
A very high-stakes trade-off,
Yeah.
your personal life versus physical anguish.
But the moment she complies, the relief is just as powerful.
Oh, and
The excruciating burning immediately ceases the second she touches that lavender envelope, the acceptance of the spiritual contract.
that torment is replaced by what's described as an icy waterfall of coolness. This rapid swing from extreme pain to intense comfort, it reinforces the medium's compliance. It trains their body and mind to rush toward the duty no matter what they were doing before.
It's a masterclass in spiritual manipulation, really. It makes the duty seem like salvation from suffering rather than a forced obligation.
And this mechanism is just crucial to understanding why Monique is so deeply resistant to the whole thing. She hates that her physical body is entirely controlled by a dead woman and a bureaucratic system.
Okay, so let's transition to the family unit itself, because their individual personalities really inform how they deal with this inherited trauma.
There's 6 cousins involved, right?
Right, 6 of them. So first we meet Nanette. She's the oldest cousin. She's clearly responsible, stressed out, and basically the operational manager of the family's earthly and spiritual affairs.
Then there's Tristan, the oldest male cousin. He's a fireman, brings a lot of practicality and a sense of duty.
Okay.
Gage is the playboy older brother, studying to be a doctor, but he's highly capable when he needs to be. Jen is the youngest, only 21, a college psych student. Maybe she uses her studies to try and rationalize their whole supernatural existence.
That would make sense.
And finally, there's Dax, Monique's tender-hearted younger brother, who offers her a lot of emotional support.
And then there's Monique, the focus of our deep dive. She is the middle child, and her resistance just defines her character. She has this profound resentment, noting she damn near hates the medium duty precisely because it removes all autonomy from her life.
And the sources give us a perfect, painful example of this. So Monique had endured Adeline's assignment interruptions long enough to suffer a punishing 6-month dry spell. She was finally on a date with this guy, Pierre Comeaux, who's described as a gorgeous combination of dark-haired, tanned, and muscled Cajun.
So she was ready. She was ready to reclaim her personal life. She'd skipped dinner plans, was prepared for a marathon man experience, but just as the chemistry was peaking,
Right when it was getting good.
the physical signs of the incoming summons began.
As Pierre's attention intensified and his kisses moved lower, promising intimacy, he even mentioned using the kitchen island, Monique's flesh began to flame.
The burn.
The burn, that sizzling sensation on her neck, it signaled the assignment was seconds away from materializing.
And she fought it. She tried to delay, thinking that a physical connection with Pierre might be worth the escalating pain.
But the sources make it clear the pain escalated way too quickly. She had to literally flee the potential first orgasm she'd had in half a year.
Leaving Pierre completely baffled.
And probably convinced she was a massive tease.
This specific incident is critical, learner. It shows the ruthless efficiency of Adeline's spiritual oversight. It suggests that the system isn't just interfering with her duty, it's actively sabotaging her pursuit of physical and emotional attachment to living men.
Yeah, it leaves Monique emotionally and physically starved, which makes her uniquely vulnerable to the type of spiritual entity she's about to encounter. That tension, created by this enforced abstinence, is the narrative engine for the entire romantic conflict.
So the family duty is relentless, but the Vicknairs have an even bigger problem that is entirely grounded in the physical world.
Yeah, as if managing an afterlife HR department wasn't enough, the Vicknair operation is facing an existential threat right where the assignments land. their ancestral sugarcane plantation home.
And this house is their spiritual hub.
It is, and it's in catastrophic disrepair following Hurricane Katrina.
We're not talking cosmetic damage here. The sources describe severe compromises. The roof is barely hanging on, covered by a temporary, increasingly shredded blue tarp.
And the foundation is weakened, and critically, the first floor, which is closed off, fills with mud and contaminated water every single time it rains heavily.
And here's why they can't just sell it or abandon it. The family explicitly believes its survival is tied to their spiritual mandate. The house is where the spirits come for help. Right. If the structure is demolished, they believe it could mean the end of Vicknair mediums. The physical space of the plantation is intrinsically linked to the spiritual gateway used by the, what's it called? The Realm Entrance Governing Squadron.
That's the one. And their financial situation is just dire. They used all the insurance money they had just to dredge the sludge out of the bottom floor after Katrina, a massive, expensive cleanup.
And now they're tapped out.
Completely, and desperately seeking restoration funds from the Historical Society to stabilize the structure, which is where the terrestrial conflict begins.
And this financial desperation introduces their antagonist, Charles Roussel.
Mm-hmm.
He's the parish president and, crucially, holds a key seat on the historical board, the very board responsible for approving exactly the kind of restoration funds the Vicknairs need.
And Roussel is not subtle about his intentions. The family is convinced he's actively trying to force the house's demolition so he can get the property for himself.
Right. Monique specifically observed the undeniable lust in his eyes for the mansion. He sees the property, not the history.
And the sources highlight his legal and political maneuvering. He'd initially tried to categorize the house as irrevocably contaminated and structurally unsound, based on a rule requiring demolition if a house had held 6 feet of floodwater.
But Nanette, the pragmatic one, she countered this.
She did, immediately. She pointed out they didn't measure the water depth before they cleaned it, and that the contaminated area was sealed off. So this is a game of political chicken played with legal loopholes.
And the timeline is painfully tight, which is stressing Nanette, the primary organizer, to the breaking point. An historical society review committee, heavily influenced by Roussel, is scheduled to inspect the house in just 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
If that house looks structurally irreparable, they lose everything.
And the immediate existential threat is a major, fast-moving storm heading right for them. If that storm shreds the rest of that blue tarp and exposes the house,
Roussel would have all the legal justification he needs.
Structural hazard, he could push for mandatory demolition. The fate of the entire Vicknair medium lineage hinged on whether they could get a roof on that house in less than 2 weeks.
This crisis, though, it does allow us to see the deep loyalty within the family, especially from Gage, the Playboy doctor.
Yeah, Gage steps up with a dramatic, almost life-altering sacrifice.
It's the highest expression of his commitment to their heritage, right?
Yeah.
Despite his stated desire for a glamorous, non-spiritual life.
It is. He uses the money he had set aside for his medical school loan, a huge future investment in his professional life, to pay for expedited, high-quality synthetic slate tiles.
Wow.
They sourced them from Canada and paid a premium to get them flown in quickly, just to make sure they would beat the imminent storm.
So he's essentially delaying or possibly even derailing his own professional future, all to save the physical structure that houses their supernatural calling.
And he doesn't just make the financial sacrifice, he also deploys some political strategy. He hires a team of roofers, but orchestrates a bit of deception.
What, the Triple D roof?
That's it. Dubbing the company Triple D Roofing and specifically hiring 3 female roofers, the entire point was to throw Roussel off the scent.
Right, make him think the family was relying on some fly-by-night, low-quality labor.
When in reality, they were installing expedited, top-tier, long-lasting materials.
The use of deception, even down to the company name, it shows that the Vicknairs know they are in a political war as much as a structural one. They're fighting for their home's survival using every tool they have.
And this dual crisis, the spiritual mandate and the material threat, it serves a critical purpose for Monique. She hates the duty, but when she confesses her distress about the house to Ryan later, she admits she wants the plantation to shine again.
So she does care.
Deep down, yeah. The house is intrinsically tied to her unique, complicated identity. Saving the house is saving the future potential of the Vicknair line, whether she wants to participate in it or not.
So the foundation of the family is shaking, physically, financially, and politically. And into this chaos drops the new assignment. And it is unlike anything Monique has ever experienced before.
The assignment drops right after Monique flees her date with Pierre. She accepts the envelope, The pain of the burn vanishes, and she reads the details of the spirit. Ryan Chappelle, 28 years old at the time of death.
And crucially, he's not the usual crusty old spirit. He is instantly captivating to Monique, who notices his dark hair, muscled physique, and the sexy voice with a distinct southern drawl.
Which he later reveals is from Lower Alabama, L.A.
Of course. The universe, or maybe Adeline, has a really wicked sense of humor regarding Monique's 6-month dry spell.
It's almost too perfect, and the requirement for passage is the first major red flag. It's listed simply as learning to love.
That's it.
That's it. And Monique's previous assignments were all transactional and concrete. Forgive spouse, deliver lost item, hug mother, things with clear fulfillments.
Read a checklist. Learning to love that's a profound life-altering process, not a checklist item.
Exactly. And the vagueness speaks to the depth of Ryan's spiritual failing in life. The Associated Status Report, the official memo that comes with the assignment, explains the severity. His access to the other side is irrevocably denied.
Wow.
Because he refused to open his heart to love during his 28 years of life, focusing instead only on physical bonding.
So that tells us something vital about this spiritual bureaucracy.
Mm.
The system, represented by the Realm Entrance Governing Squadron and Lionel Dewberry, Gatekeeper First Class, doesn't just grade actions, it grades emotional evolution.
Mm-hmm. Ryan was determined to live freely and avoid the cautious fate of his parents, so he prioritized thrill and physical experience, and it left his soul emotionally stunted.
Okay, wait. Who is Lionel Dewberry, Gatekeeper First Class? This title sounds like a mid-level manager in the afterlife. What does First Class signify in this spiritual hierarchy?
It strongly suggests a rigid, stratified bureaucracy operating the afterlife. Lionel Dewberry is likely several steps removed from the higher authority, maybe Adeline, who truly pulls the strings. A first-class designation implies seniority, procedural knowledge,
And the power to issue memos.
the power to issue memos that dictate the terms of passage. It confirms that Ryan's file has gone through multiple layers of spiritual review, escalating the severity of his task.
And the most shocking factor is the deadline. The time allotted for rectification is 9 days.
Yeah. Monique immediately recognizes this is highly irregular. Her longest assignment before this was 3 days. 9 days suggests the system believes this is an incredibly difficult, almost impossible task, or
Or that the spirit is deeply resistant.
which Ryan immediately confirms he has no intention of complying. He's been lingering in the middle for 14 months, and he likes it here, stating he's having too much fun. He refuses to cross over.
So that's a whole new problem for the Vicknairs, an assigned spirit who rejects the entire premise of the medium duty.
And the fun he's having is, well, extremely specific. Ryan reveals a specialized spiritual trait. He spends his time in the middle, fulfilling women's sexual fantasies in their dreams.
Okay, hold on.
It's a complex supernatural mechanism. He explains that he can only be with a woman who lets me in, which means the activity is explicitly consensual on a spiritual level.
How did that work?
The women have to go to sleep wishing they had a dark, handsome stranger, and he then uses the right words or the right touch to guide them to climax or to push them over the edge.
Wait, so the afterlife has a spiritual regulatory body that is essentially policing consensual dream sex. That level of oversight is astonishing.
It is. It means the Realm Entrance Governing Squadron is aware of, and possibly tacitly allows, this spectral service, as long as it adheres to the rule of consent.
So Ryan is a certified spectral sex worker.
Who's adhering to the rulebook of the Middle Realm. And this just heightens the conflict because Monique has been ordered to help a ghost learn to love when his entire spectral existence is built around physical, non-committal pleasure.
And this sets the stage for the hostile connection. The medium-spirit bond is supposed to be analytical, helping the medium understand the ghost's dilemma. But with Ryan, the bond is immediate, overwhelming, and highly sexual.
Oh, instantly. Ryan instantly senses Monique's deepest desires and conflicts. He knows she's irritated by the summons, yet secretly excited by the importance of her family duty, and he immediately perceives her intense 6-month-old lust toward him.
It's volatile.
It's a volatile connection because it is instant spiritual and sexual recognition, unlike anything Monique has ever experienced in her medium duty.
She's been set up. The system, or Adeline, has paired the most sexually frustrated medium with a ghost whose entire existence is based on satisfying fantasy, and whose very assignment is to find the emotional core he lacks.
Which brings us to the biggest problem. The immediate existential threat to Monique's duty is the most fundamental rule of the Vicknair mediums. She cannot touch a spirit, ever.
This is the spiritual failsafe. Why is this rule so absolute? The sources imply this isn't just a simple boundary. If she breaks it, she risks something profound.
The fear is dual: spiritual contamination and permanent attachment. If a medium physically touches a spirit, they risk a dangerous exchange of energy. It could drain the medium, or it could bind the spirit permanently to the physical world through the medium.
Which would jeopardize the entire lineage's ability to function.
Exactly. And Monique herself knows the consequence. She fears that if she broke the rule, she would never want to let him go. The rule exists to maintain professional distance and prevent the medium from prioritizing a spirit over the living.
Ryan, however, he understands rules, even in death. He clarifies the ghostly limitations he operates under.
Yeah, he can't see through clothes or view nudity unless expressly allowed by the individual. He's a gentleman from LA, upholding spectral etiquette. And this detail is important because it establishes trust and shows he is internally regulated, which allows Monique to consider compromise.
And that compromise is born entirely out of Monique's desperate need for connection and physical release, combined with Ryan's unique status as a spectral intimacy expert.
Right. Given his refusal to cross, they strike an agreement. Ryan will explore the possibility of crossing over if Monique will explore their bonding deal to see exactly what's possible.
This exploration is what the source material labels brain sex. It is an entirely mental, telepathic form of intimacy that leverages the strength of the medium-spirit bond without breaking the absolute physical contact prohibition.
The process is incredibly detailed and unique. So Monique, desperate for release after Adeline's intervention, she initiates the physical aid, her vibrator.
Okay.
But it's Ryan, through the mental bond, who controls the sensation, the pacing, and the intensity. Later, they move beyond tools, achieving mutual climax purely through intense mental focus and visualization. It demonstrates a profound spiritual and psychological intimacy that completely bypasses the need for skin-to-skin contact.
This ability proves that the medium-spirit bond isn't just for information transfer. It's a conduit for intense emotional and physical pleasure. But the experience carries a deep consequence for both of them.
It does. For Monique, the pleasure is profound. It's the first release she's had, and it's delivered by the ghost she is supposed to be helping cross over. But for Ryan, the experience confirms his lack of true fulfillment.
How so?
He admits he did have an orgasm, feeling the intense connection, but notes there's not exactly a need for procreation in the middle. He is left unsatisfied compared to a physical union.
So he experiences the joy of connection, but the frustration of not being able to consummate it physically.
Right, which should theoretically drive him toward crossing.
But the immediate emotional fallout for Monique is just catastrophic for her living future. The mental connection has effectively ruined her for living men.
Oh, completely. The intimacy they share is so potent, so focused, that even the thought of Pierre Comeaux didn't do a thing for her now. She realizes she has fallen in love with a ghost who exists outside of her world. And she understands the self-destructive loop. She desperately needs Ryan to cross to save herself from emotional ruin, knowing that if he ever touched her physically, she would sacrifice everything. Her medium duty, her family's house, her entire life.
So her need for him to leave is now entirely about self-preservation.
And as this complex telepathic affair is consuming Monique, Ryan demonstrates his first real step toward learning to love, but not through romantic attachment. He shows affection for the physical, material problem of the house.
This is a crucial pivot point in his spiritual development.
It really is. He senses Monique's deep, secret care for the plantation, the home she publicly despises but privately cherishes. And Ryan, without being asked, volunteers his ghostly energy and time to help the family.
He steps in during that raging storm that threatened to give Roussel the legal ammunition he needed. Ryan is the invisible force who fixes the shredded tarp.
And begins installing the expensive Canadian slate tiles. And here's the wonderful twist of detail. Ryan reveals he owned a roofing company when he was alive.
No way.
He is using his living material expertise in his spectral form, nailing tiles onto the roof at twice the speed of the human roofers. He's not learning love by falling for Celeste or Monique romantically yet. He's learning it through sacrifice, service, and protecting the things Monique holds dear.
It's the ultimate ghost demonstration of affection. Ignoring his own spiritual duty and spectral pleasures to ensure the structural integrity of the house she despises but needs, all while providing intensely satisfying brain sex at night.
It's a very modern, very transactional form of love emerging from a supernatural crisis.
Okay, so with the 9-day deadline looming, And Monique, realizing she is hopelessly in love with a ghost she needs to lose, she takes drastic action.
Right. She has to find a way to make him fulfill the learning to love requirement so he crosses, thereby freeing her from this dangerous attachment.
So she decides to play matchmaker.
She and Nanette, the family's organizational powerhouse, create a strategic 5-step plan for love. They apply bureaucratic logic to an emotional problem.
What are the steps?
1. Meet. 2. Attraction. 3. Chat. 4. Talk about past and future. And 5. Intimacy. They treat this like a business development project.
That is amazing. And Monique tasks Ryan with meeting Celeste, who is Dax's spiritual assignment.
And Celeste is the ideal candidate, a beautiful 22-year-old counselor who voluntarily stayed in the middle realm to help a younger child cross. She is demonstrably empathetic and sacrificial, the exact opposite of Ryan's self-centered past.
This is a high-stakes emotional gamble for Monique, so Ryan spends his days fulfilling the plan with Celeste.
And his nights secretly back with Monique for brain sex.
So how does it go?
Well, Ryan reports back on his progress. Celeste is attractive, smart, and they've achieved friendship, covering the first 3 steps. But they haven't developed romantic love. They're good friends, but there is no spark, no soul connection.
And Monique is devastated by the failure.
But paradoxically, she realizes this confirms her own love. She was heartbroken at the prospect of him falling for someone else, which cemented her desire to keep him, even if it risked her life.
So the pressure mounts to the final night. Ryan is due to cross at midnight, the end of the 9-day window. And Monique is in the shower, crying, believing she has failed him and that she's now permanently ruined for the world of the living.
And Ryan appears instantly, sensing her profound distress. He confesses the truth behind his sudden departures during their intimate moments. He fled because he was about to break the fundamental rule, to touch her, and in doing so, risk her family heritage.
So he leaves because he loves her too much to hurt her family.
Right. His act of abstinence, originally forced by Adeline's rules, becomes his first true act of love.
And he knows this is goodbye, so he gives her one final permitted memory.
He does. He reveals the visceral trauma of his death, skydiving in a freak rainstorm, hitting the pointed tips of raindrops at 130 miles per hour, feeling like tiny wet needles against his skin. And to simulate this final, intense physical sensation, a memory that is technically part of his past life and thus not prohibited, he mentally focuses his love and desire. He uses kisses, bites, and sucking sensations across her body, delivered entirely through the telepathic bond.
Providing a moment of intense, non-prohibited passion.
It is a profound sharing of a life and a death experience, the highest form of intimacy achieved within the rules.
And this simulation is their final intimacy. It's a sharing of pain and pleasure that proves he has finally achieved the necessary emotional depth.
And then, right before the midnight deadline, Ryan leaves, without a word, leaving Monique in anguish, certain he has fulfilled his requirement and crossed over to the other side.
Midnight strikes, the 9 days are up, and the spiritual system reasserts its control. The painful burning sensation immediately returns, signaling that Monique has received a new assignment.
Yeah, she stumbles down the stairs, bracing herself for the inevitable, confirming Ryan is gone. The bureaucracy continues, regardless of personal loss.
But here is the magnificent, universe-bending twist. She opens the lavender envelope for the new assignment, and it doesn't contain a dilemma. It contains only 2 words, written in Adeline's signature swirling script.
Permission granted.
What does that even mean?
It's not just a green light, it's an institutional override. It means the spiritual authorities, the realm entrance governing squadron, Lionel Dewberry, and possibly Adeline herself, have approved an unprecedented outcome.
And before Monique can even process the meaning of those 2 words, Ryan walks into the sitting room.
And he is now fully physical. She notices the details that were previously invisible. The pulse throbbing in his throat, his true blue eye color, not the spectral jet black, and the terrifying fact that she can now touch him.
He's alive.
He is. And Ryan explains the provision. He met with Adeline and the spiritual authorities. He did not cross over because the spiritual constitution, despite all its rigidity, holds a specific, rare loophole, a provision. Should a ghost find his soulmate while dwelling in the interim, then the 2 shall have the chance to bring their souls together on this side, to live together until death, true death, do they part.
So this confirms that Ryan achieved learning to love, not through the planned strategy with Celeste, but through the sacrificial, rule-bound, intensely psychological connection with his medium, Monique.
Exactly. Because he met the emotional requirement, the highest spiritual authority allowed him to return to a fully physical state in the living world.
And he confirms that he has chosen to stay with Monique, stating he will now only fulfill one woman's fantasies.
The ultimate resolution is that the system bent, proving that profound emotional growth and true love supersede even the most stringent rules of passage. He is now physical, permanently attached to the Vicknair house and Monique, ensuring both survive.
And just like that, the ancestral home has a new roof, the family secret is safe, and Monique has a physically present, pulse-bearing soulmate who just so happens to be an expert roofer and a spectral intimacy specialist.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner, as we look at the mechanics of this supernatural world? On the material level, the immediate crises are resolved. Gage's medical school money secured the house's exterior. It passed the inspection.
Though they still have that contamination hurdle on the first floor.
Right. And Monique secured a permanent physical partner directly from a ghost assignment.
The most important insight here, I think, is the unexpected flexibility of the spiritual system. The source material details this intensely rigid bureaucracy, the debilitating physical burning, the non-negotiable assignments, the tight deadlines, the formal memos from the gatekeepers. And yet, it reveals an ultimate capacity for grace. The highest spiritual authorities were willing to grant a permanent physical partner out of an assignment, essentially bending cosmic law for the sake of true love and emotional growth.
And Ryan completed his required rectification, but the board of directors ultimately prioritized the true sacrificial emotional connection he found with Monique.
The connection demonstrated by his desire to protect her family's home and his willingness to leave her rather than break the rules.
Exactly. They prioritized that over any rigid procedural fulfillment.
And this brings us back to Adeline Vicknair. She was the one who enforced the 6-month dry spell, maximizing Monique's sexual frustration. She was the one who assigned the most handsome, sexually experienced ghost to her. She was the one who ultimately signed off on the permission-granted memo.
Which raises an incredibly important question, listener. If the highest spiritual authorities, represented by Grandma Adeline, the feisty, controlling matriarch, are willing to grant a permanent physical partner to a medium who hated her duty, what does that imply about the actual purpose of the medium's duty?
Was Monique's assignment truly about helping Ryan cross the veil, or was the entire difficult, frustrating, and intensely intimate experience a grand, orchestrated, and perhaps slightly manipulative dating service designed by Adeline specifically to ensure her granddaughter found a partner worthy of inheriting the family secrets?
And helping to repair the family's very physical, earthly problems?
It suggests the spiritual system's ultimate goal is not just closure for the dead, but also the propagation and happiness of the living lineage.
A cosmic matchmaking service with exceptionally high physical stakes. Something to chew on until our next deep dive.